Hey, Bobby. Happy Saturday, man. Trying to sort out a couple technical difficulties real fast here. Everything is not awesome. Give me one sec here. Setting up a few things. If it will work. That's the problem. The problem, like usual, is user error. Alright, let's see if everything's working now. What's up, everyone? Happy Saturday. Dude, finally had a really nice Saturday. We were able to take the kids four-wheel riding for just a little bit. And unfortunately, Agent Zero's four-wheeler, the kickstart, just crapped out on it. No idea why. Probably one of the kids jacking around, trying to kickstart it when they shouldn't have been. Oh well. So I got to get that fixed. But on the good news is, we had another bike on standby, and it's a bigger engine. It's about 30% bigger. He rides a 50cc, and but it's got about the power of something bigger, and the new one is a 94cc. So he was having a pretty good time once he got used to that. Now he's probably going to complain about his old bike. I'll crack open a good Jocko. All right. Let's see. So, long story short, over here on the server, something happened and I had to end up rebooting it. Now, the good news is it doesn't look like any code was lost. So that is awesome. The downside is, I forgot where we left off with, what is it? I forget where we left off with the browser. The browser was jacked up. That's what we were trying to fix the last time. Let's see. Let's see if we can maybe get that knocked out a little bit here. Let me look at something real quick here. So we have this, which links correctly now over to browser use. We've done some modifications to the Docker file. So we've got that going here. So I think what we... Now, there's another problem here, though. We tried to run the Chromium browser, and we get no usable sandbox. Disabled unprivileged user namespaces with AppArmor. See this? That's not the case. Man. It's disconnected. Root. Everything is root. I don't think that's going to work. Well, let's see here. With the older SUID sandbox, you want to live dangerously and need to make it work around. Okay. So what was the error we were actually getting? We're getting this right here. Third-party crash pad. Let's see if this has any known issues with it. This is a different app here. What are these guys working on? I don't see anything mentioned about this here. I have no idea what this is. I've never heard of this before. So sys devices, system CPU frequency, scaling, max frequency. Why would that even matter for Chrome? I don't know. Anyway. Let's try something. So. It's our browser agent. Ah, it's right here. I need to get that out of there. It would always be current file. Let's see here. Hey, Max, what's up, man? Dude, we are working on an AI agent to go play Hack the Box and try hack before us. And so I'm a professional penetration tester, and I like some of the aspects about CTFs. You can learn a lot from them. I have my own misgivings about them, though. I'm not saying they're bad. But I thought if I want to go play CTF, one of the fun ways would be is to work on something that I'm seeing a lot of, and this would be a way of it. So like I literally just got done on a pen test for a system that was using AI agents. So this has been paying off big time. But right now, the most pressing issue is our AI agent needs a web browser. So that's what we're currently running against. Oh, I need to kill that. Let's see. Sudo opt. Tell me I put that in there. Mythic CLI. Stop. Let me kill all the Mythic containers. They just auto started on their own. Yeah, it's been pretty fun. So right now what we've got is we have another agent someone else wrote. I'm not super thrilled about it, but it is a browser use agent. Has its own browser, knows how to interact with it. We can point it over to use Anthropic, which is what we're using for all the testing right now. Eventually, we'll have other AIs, backends for it. But the issue is it is not wanting to play nice at all. It is throwing an absolute pitch fit. And I think I may know part of the issue. Actually, no, that issue doesn't even make sense. Because what I was thinking is that we don't have an X environment to run this on, but we do. There should be an X environment in there. For this case, for our testing purposes, yeah, we're using Anthropic. Eventually, there would be easy ways for me to go in and swap out and like maybe have a user choose which agent they wanted to use. Even if they wanted to do like a self-hosted agent, there will be options inside the environment variables that you can go through and you can set all that stuff up. But right now, we're just using Anthropic until we get like the 4 primary agents configured. So the 4 of them are going to be one for in recon, enumeration, exploitation, and then post-exploitation. So we're currently on the exploitation agent. And most of the time on these CTFs, the exploits are web-based. And we're getting really good traction with it. However, eventually we hit a roadblock and it's like we need a browser that the agent can control and can go do stuff. So that's what we're currently working on. Let's see. All right, now let me try this since those are all stopped. Okay, so that's up. Let me try this again. Let me do. And let's get into this container real quick. Dang it, I forgot about this. Apt update. Apt install TACY proc PS. Then PS anyway. Ah, I can't spell update correctly. There we go. Killing me, Smalls. So the problem is, I went into the container, freaking as the user, who doesn't have permissions to do all this fun stuff. Here. So I'm going to take a look at the... So all we're getting is a bunch of Chrome crash pads. So we're not supposed to be running it headless, but why is it crashing? That's the part that is weird. Let me go ahead and kill the script that's running right now, because it's just running in a perpetual loop. I think it's no tac sandbox. Let's see. How is Playwright launching this? Because so what we've got is we got Playwright in the background actually managing the browser. Let's see. Where's our fork of browser views? Right, here we go. That's not where it is. Let me find out where. Actually, hold on. There was 2 in here. So rather than just use the Chromium, we could also use... I think we might be able to launch it through right. Let's see. Because there were actually 2 different versions in here. So we have Playwright, good old-fashioned standard testing for using web browsers, right? But then there's another one that's supposed to be a little bit more stealthy option called PatchWrite, where it actually patches in a bunch of changes to make it to where it doesn't look like it's an agent running on the browser, right? It looks like it's supposed to look a little bit more human. Actually, let me go check something. Don't have that Docker file up. Let me see. Let me CD over to browser you. I think there's the Docker file. Actually, let me just search for Patchwright. Let's see what we've got in here. There we are. So there's our Patchwright version. Installing Playwright. With this version, installing Patchwright with this version. Yeah, actually, these are the UV packages, right? So this is the Python packages where it's installing in here. Wait, so these are the only options we've got here, because then after this, I believe here, what we've got down here, then we're using Playwright for all these things. See that? Need something. Try something quick here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, and rather than using Playwright, I'm going to try using Patchwright, because I just want to check something real fast as we kind of hack around on this. Actually, this is probably going to fail simply because we're in there as browser use. So what I'm going to do is I can get another shell inside there. So this is Practical Rosalind. So what we'll do is docker exec interactive terminal. Make this ephemeral terminal. We say this is Practical Rosalind, and give us a bash shell in here. Oh wait, this didn't have a run. There we go. But we do need to actually execute this as root, so that was helpful. There we go. So look right here. See, these are both in the same host here, so we're in the same container with both of these. But I want to try something here. I want to see where this actually installs. Wait, so this is already installed all the way? I guess so. Because Patchwright is supposed to be a drop-in replacement for Playwright. Let's hop back over to the code real fast here, because I want to see where, when we run TACTAC MCP. So what we're doing is we're working on a fork of browser use, because I'm going to do some modifications to it. And eventually what we'll do is, for all the tools that need to be run for this tool, we'll have a Docker repository with all the tools where people can just download those containers. Very similar to, I think, what Mythic is doing. And so once we finish the exploitation agent, I'm going to have Cody come back on the stream. And so that'll be a great time to ask any questions you've got about Mythic, its development, cool features you want to ask him about. He'll be on to answer those. But I'm also going to pick his brain about how we can integrate HackBot over to Mythic for the post-exploitation agent, and then also ask him about some of the design decisions for Mythic and see if we can roll some of those over, like the future Docker containers. Hey, there we go. Now it's working. I was having trouble monitoring the back end, and it was like just giving me all sorts of weird errors. But now we're back. Awesome. Let me check something. Good. All right, sweet. One of the systems that was just crashing out on me is back up and running. All right, so there's MCP, but what are we actually using this for? All right, so let's look in the CLI real fast here. So where does this actually get added here? So what are we using for click here? Here we go. So if we have MCP set, so our telemetry is going to be product telemetry. Let's see, which we disabled the telemetry, so that's not an issue. CLI telemetry. So from browser use MCP server, import as MCP main. Then we async run MCP main. So let's go look at that real quick. Let's see. So browser use MCP server. Will this link us over to it? Oh, I could do sure. MCP main. Here we go. Wait, that's it? Hold on, that can't be right. What's this? Browser use MCP server. So we're probably in the wrong server. Here we go. Because I want to see how this is. Probably down here at the bottom. Okay, so here's main. So we go over to the main function. All right. So we set up a browser use server. We have telemetry capture, go up. And then we're using server.run. So where are we getting server from? So our server, yeah, our server uses the browser user. So where's run here? But where are they actually launching the browser? That's what I'm trying to figure out right here. So we're just kind of reading through the code. We're going to hack around on it a little bit. Because I want to see if it's using Patchwright or if it's using Playwright. It's not a big deal if it's using one or the other. However, if we ever wanted to use the browser for anything that needs to go out to the internet, it's instantly going to get flagged as a bot. So I do want to know, because it's always good. What am I always stressing? Is that anytime you're doing offensive work, you should be testing your tools and kind of tearing them apart a bit and understanding what they're doing in a test environment before you start firing that stuff live in your client's environment. Let's see, there's our server version. Where's this good? Let's see. So MCP server standard IO version. Wait, where did it come from? Server standard IO. Oh, we're in server. Let's see. We're standard IO. Is that it? Why would it instantly get flagged as a bot? Because it's going through and using Playwright, and that's a very well-known tool. So Playwright is meant as a browser automation system for unit testing. So somebody goes through, and unfortunately, I think the iPad died on me. Let me see here. Might be able to draw you a diagram. Yeah. Unfortunately, I think this cable I got is dying. Okay. There we go. Uh-oh. I'm not familiar with HP Load Runner. Ah, here we go. Oh, good. It even still has my diagram up from last time. There we go. So eventually, this is kind of what the overall architecture of the bot's going to look like. Each of these will be kind of like their own agents. This is the supervisor. These are the primary agents. And then eventually they'll have secondary agents down here that they can call for, like, maybe recon against certain platforms, enumeration against certain platforms, specialized exploitation, whatnot. But essentially what's happening here is for Playwright, I think that's it. Yeah, right. There we go. So for Playwright, what's happening is it's talking over, I believe it's using Chrome DevTools protocol. So this is a special protocol that sits in the back of your browser, right? And lets it go to a web page. And you can do just about everything with it. You can dump cookies. You can tell it go forward go back a page, click on something, render elements from the DOM, whatnot. So Playwright's actually connecting in this way to your browser. and then it's going out to the overall internet, right? So what happens though is this Chrome and the way it acts and the things that it does, it's very easy to fingerprint. It's actually really easy to fingerprint a browser. If you don't believe me, go search on Google creep.js and go to the live demo of creep.js, and it will tell you all sorts of interesting stuff that it can just observe about your browser by running a JavaScript on there. So there's another version though of this that someone made called PatchWrite. And I'm not familiar with all of the indicators, but PatchWrite, in theory, should make it so that it's not as detectable of a bot. Now, this is PatchWrite, I can guarantee you, is going to be in the same kind of category as a lot of the other kind of security or obfuscation tools, where they make a change, the detectors make a change. They make a change, the detectors make a change. Back and forth, cat and mouse, ping pong. Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure exactly what all PatchWrite's doing. That'd be something fun to dig into. But for the CTFs, they're not going to be blocking bots, right? They're not going through Cloudflare. They're not doing anything like that. So we don't actually need PatchWrite. However, if for some reason I need the browser agent to be able to go maybe research something on the internet, maybe I want to use it as like a really cheap poor man's Google, then we might want to have PatchWrite. So that's kind of what we're digging through right now is we're going to see how the Playwright library, the library itself, is actually connecting all this stuff together. And we're doing that over in browser use, except this is in our, it's fine. We're looking in the official repo, but I haven't modified the fork yet. I mostly did that so that if we do make changes, we can go commit them up there. We have had to make some changes to the Docker file. Spent a couple days troubleshooting that. Also, thank you for coming online. Welcome in. And a very, very happy Saturday to everybody. Hope you all had a wonderful day. I was so glad to get some outside time. Guys, I feel like I've been stuck in the house for 5 days straight. And I've noticed, like, I started reading a book. I'm reading Killing Floor, which is the first book in the Jack Reacher series. And I've noticed, like, I'm having a little bit of trouble focusing on the writing when I'm, like, it's really late at night. And I was like, man, I got to get more sunlight. I got to get my eyes some exercise. Killing me. Yeah, we can go take a look at it real quick. Hang on. This is not the one. But anyway, yeah, if we go look at, I believe it explains kind of what it does. Except I didn't spell it out all the way. PatchWrite. Is this it? I think it's with a W. PatchWrite browser. Oh, not PatchWrite. Not plagiarism. Oh, it is RIGHT. Okay, I was spelling it wrong. There we go. So what does PatchWrite do? It's a patched and undetected version of Playwright testing and automation framework can be used as a drop-in replacement for Playwright. So some of the patches, runtime enable. So this is the biggest patch that it uses to avoid detection by leaks by patching. PatchWrite avoids using runtime enable by executing JavaScript in isolated execution context. So how they're interacting with some things hides it from the other things. Also, console leaking, a bunch of other systems in here. So in theory, with the right setup, you should be undetectable by like Cloudflare, Casada, Akamai, F5, so on and so forth. Even Creep.js right there, which is what I mentioned. So with the correct setup, you should be kind of invisible using PatchWrite. Not a big deal for us, but however, I have seen some other browser agents, they do need to do that. All right, so the question here is, I think we're good there. We don't need that. Don't think we need this either. Actually, from looking in here, it looked like we had preferred to use PatchWrite over Playwright. That's right. We had looked at this last week. And by the way, I only work on this on stream, kind of. Some days we'll take a day off. We'll go do a fun CTF or something and just kind of chill out. But I usually work on this on Saturdays and Sundays. And it's just a fun project. It lets me do stuff in the offensive sphere and have a good time with it while not directly doing things like bug bounties or other stuff that's directly day job related. Let me see here. So this is saying if our version info is less than 312, but this isn't an issue for us because browser use is actually running inside the container. So like if we do Python with the tag v, we're running 312, so that's not an issue. This is saying if it's less than 312. This is our browser types. Let's see. Let's look at the browser session here. So how's it initializing the session with it? So we import those types. We have a couple different views we import. Actually, let's look through over here. There we go. So there's the browser session class. So one of the issues that I think it's running into here actually, you know what we can do? Let's do something quick. So, okay, so this shell is stopped. Let's come back over to the SSH session here. So let me exit out of this. What we can do is actually run browser use with the MCP, and let's see if it gives us anything. Browser use, tac MCP. Because it only has one option, which is to run the MCP over standard I/O. Oh, you know what? Let me kill this. Forget how we did that. Actually, I know exactly how we did that. It's over in here. I think we just set that to... Let me export that real quick. So it's one less thing to troubleshoot. I think anonymized telemetry false, and then I think it won't worry about that. Yeah, see, we don't get the telemetry issue here. So now what we should do is it's going to try and, I think, launch the browser, and we should see it coming back. Come on, you can do it. Killing me, Smalls. So actually, you know something we could probably do? Let me think about this. So what I want is I want to be able to see what browser use is throwing for errors when it initializes something. Update that. Because if browser use should hopefully throw some errors saying, hey, we can't launch the browser, right? You are killing me. Let's see. Apt update. Apt install proc. Yes. Yeah. And then let me see if it's even tried to... Damn it. Wanted to see if it was even running it in here. Let me see. So there has to be another option we can do with this. Cloud Sir, thank you for coming online. Welcome in. And I hope you're having a happy Saturday. So one of the things that's happened, so when we try to run this with root. That's another option we had to try and troubleshoot some of the permission issues. But I remember saying we got an error with this where there was a sandboxing issue. Yeah, see, this is what we keep running across. So it's trying to launch it, it gets the proc ID, and then it just BTFOs itself. So what else could we do with? Let me think. Surely browser use has some kind of debugging to it. Yeah, it has to. Let's look at something real quick. Browser use, hack H, let's see. There we go. So we can enable verbose debug logging. Let me try that. I did not, Bobby. So there's no option in here to tell it to... Actually, we could try running it in headless. I didn't think that was going to work because for some reason I thought when we were building the Docker, or we were modifying the Docker file, it did not install it in headless mode. Let me try something here. Let's just give it a shot. Let's just see what happens. I don't know if running in MCP mode is going to do anything because it's basically sitting here waiting for a JSON-style RPC to talk to it over standard I/O. Obviously, we're hooked to the standard I/O. We're not sending it anything. But you know what? Let's try that over in the script here. So rather than running it as root here, let's just add another option here. So let's try it with headless. Let's see what happens. I'll have to clean this up too. I think I mentioned this last weekend also. I've been messing with a really fun tool, doing a little bit of AI artwork experimentation because it's a fun way to kind of learn some of the libraries for it. One of them, though, is a cool, very neat tool called Comfy UI. And Comfy UI has the ability to add customized nodes where you just drop them into a folder. So I'm actually going to dig into some of its code because it's all open source and see how they're doing that, how they're exposing certain features. Because I thought that would be a really great way where, hey, look, we've got something in here. You either through the web UI we're eventually going to build, you drop it in and it uploads and then you can add new agents, things like that. So I'm going to try and draw some inspiration out of that. Unfortunately, it looks like headless is not working either. Actually, let me see something here. Here we go. So actually, we might be able to run this here. So this runs the browser in headless mode, right? So let's do headless. I'm going to try TACP for a prompt. Let's try take a screenshot of weather.com. And it's probably going to fail because I have to go give it the Anthropic API key. All right, hold on. So we just had a whole lot flybys here. Let's take a look real quick. So we set up our file system path, base model GPT-4o, starting task, take a screenshot, spawning. So right here, launching a new browser in Playwright. And then we say spawning Chrome subprocess with CDP on 32.8.11. We're connecting to that, and then page navigation. Page navigation just took about here. Interesting. So in temp browser semaphores, screenshot failed for about blank permission error. So we got some kind of a permission error in here. Step 2, evaluating the page with 0 interactive elements on about blank. Result failed. Incorrect API key provided. All right. I might just have to go give it the Anthropic key. That's right. Hang on, guys. Let me pop into OPSEC mode real fast. Let me go pull out the API key. I'm going to try this. Because if this is working... That's what I was just thinking. So let's go. Let me go grab it real quick here. Stand by, y'all, while I set this up. All right. Let's see if this will work now. Oh, dang it. Hang on. I forgot to close a window. Close that. There we go. So for some reason, it's still trying to use OpenAI. See that? Even though we gave it an Anthropic key. Interesting. Let me go double check the document. Which, of course, that's one of the ones I just closed. Supported models. So what if we're running it from the CLI, though? How do we choose which one we want to use? So we could specify a model in here. Which models are available? So in CLI mode, can it only use OpenAI? Because that's pretty craptacular. Oh, I wish this thing was working. I really don't want to go dissect their code and basically make a LangGraph equivalent to it, but I will if I need to. Yeah, even here it says OpenAI API key. It's so weird, though. Yeah, masters, you would think so, but just specifying the model, and like all the examples are, hey, we're going to use OpenAI right here. Let's see if we try it in CLI mode. Let's go look at something. Browser use. Let's look through the config file here, because what it should do is here's our old config. Here we go. So yeah, so if we express an Anthropic API key, we get this one set right here. Return OS get environment variable for this. Now the question is the config being honored by the CLI? Because we should have this key set, this key, and every other one unset. So you think if we specify the model, it might work? I mean, I'd be willing to try it. You and Masterism both seem to be suggesting it, so let's give it the good old college try. Let's see. So we'll do browser use in headless. Then we give it a, what was it for model? Tac model. Let's see if we specify this, if it will work. We should have the Anthropic key in the environment. Let's see, prompt. Take a screenshot of 1.1.1.1. Oh, forgot one. Hang on. Debug. Hey, look at the big brains on y'all. I would have thought just giving it the Anthropic key might have let it do that, but maybe they don't have a default configured in there for Anthropic, so. And it looks like it's actually working. The free app that makes your internet safer, with download options available for various platforms, including mobile apps. Nice. Okay, so maybe that's something we need to specify in our arguments. Maybe we actually need to specify the MCP with the model, which we can actually do over here because we have the model exposed as part of the configuration. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to worry about that real quick. I'm going to try it literally just tacking that onto the end. Yeah, all progress is welcome at this point. So model will be, while it's on at 4. All right, let's see if maybe that will get it to work because we're telling it no telemetry. And we're telling it, here's the Anthropic key. Womp womp. What's the error we're getting? I'm an idiot. That's what the problem is. This actually needs to be split into 2 different ones. So, comma there. I'm not going to forget that trailing comma. That's what jacked us up last time. There we go. What was the prompt we gave it here? We told it browse to weather.com and check the weather in Boston. That's what we told it. See, this is weird because we know it was working, right? Now, where's the screenshot? Oh, by the way, so speaking of agents and stuff, I actually made one for a really cool tool that provides neat API stuff. It is really craptacular right now. It's very rough. It is doing stuff, but it's not doing stuff well. Once I get that cleaned up and stuff, though, I'll release it out to you guys. And it's worth doing a little bit of OSINT against cloud buckets. So once I get that guy running, I'll release it out. It's very simple, but also very useful it'll be useful for automating some stuff. Let's see. So navigate to 111 web, take a screenshot. All right, so where the screenshots actually come from? This is interesting, though. Actually, let me look at it here real quick. So I'm going to sort these by date created. I was trying to see, like, did we have any screenshots, like, dumped in here? Let's look at our home directory. See, nothing. Well, we had a couple of stuff made from today, right? This is the. It thinks it's the 20th on this server. Yes, I absolutely did see the guy at the Coldplay concert. Talk about getting wrecked in 4K, man. I mean, what a horrible way for people to find out you're a Coldplay fan. That's actually that whole event was proof over that guy just has bad taste. Yeah, bad taste in women, bad taste in music. I was like, he's not batting really well right now. Let's see. Now, where did it save this? Why was it trying to save this over to? Look at this real quick. Because that is used by root. Temp browser use semaphores. Let me do something real quick. I'm going to copy this line out real fast here. I'm going to exit out of here. And what we're going to do is we're going to run this again. However, we're going to give it attack you root. And then we're going to basically run this again because I want to see what happens. However, that's not going to work because I got to go get the dang Anthropic API key. Stand by. All right, one sec, y'all. Not doxing my API keys. Again. There we go. Okay. Let's try this again. So I got the API key configured. And this time knows we're running as root. So so with the anonymized telemetry, actually, you get something kind of interesting here. Look at that. And look at all the errors we're getting out here. So something is definitely a little bit jacked up. Let's go see what this is, actually. All right, so this is actually really really interesting. Step 1 of 2, step 2 of 2. It went here. Okay, so it said it captured a screenshot, but then it just absolutely ate life. Because we're going to start getting all sorts of interesting issues. Now, where did the screenshot save to? Let's see. Did that get saved over in the semaphores folder though? It didn't. It's not specifying where it actually saved the screenshot.
Let's go see. I think that was in temp, browser use, semaphores. There is a screenshot file in there. Let's see what the file is. I think it's here because remember, this is where it was trying to use it before. Actually, there were other files in here for this. What else do we have in here? We had the browser agent data. Yeah, and that's the to-do. So what this does is it doesn't maintain its own internal state table. It writes stuff to disk to handle it. So it makes like a to-do, makes like a next action, keeps everything kind of going in there. Tiny Witch Drawers, what's up? Happy Saturday. So where is this mysterious screenshot that just got saved? Let's do find name screenshot. Start there, and then let's type all the errors. Shut up, baby. I know it. And then pipe all the errors out to dollar, and it found absolutely freaking diddly. Dr. Lou, what's up, man? Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. Is this not working? I'd really like to know. I mean, I have no doubt that it's actually working. I just don't know what that lock file is. You know what? Actually, hold on. Let's look at something quick. Okay, so that lock file literally is just a lock file. It's not the actual screenshot in there. So we don't have any, look at this. We don't have anything written in here that's worth a damn. See that? So nothing coming from there. Let's look in the home directory. CLI. Default. That's it. Actually, hold on. Default is a directory. Let's see. We have cache and code cache. Jeez. So we got some stuff in here, but nothing special like that. Let me try. Take a screenshot and save it to my home folder. Let's try that. Maybe we could get it to like dump the screenshot directly to it. Because this is weird that this is working, but the MCP option isn't. So I'm hoping if we can combine some of these functions together, maybe we can get it to work. I should have turned on the anonymized telemetry whenever I did this. I believe these errors we're getting are errors with it trying to connect over to the anonymized telemetry. I don't have the capability to directly capture and save screenshot images to your home folder. Where does it save the screenshots then? I mean, I'm not actually even concerned about the screenshot. I just thought that was going to be interesting. However, one thing I thought would be neat is just to have that for checking on things. Output format, those are all pedantic models. let's go try this though. So it looks like this should be working. Bring this over. So we make it headless, we pass an Anthropic key, we tell it what model to use, which, by the way, actually, I want to see if we can use a slightly different model. Where's the one over in the config file? Voidsy, thank you for coming online. Voidsy0. Hope you're having a fantastic Saturday, and hope everybody's having a really just awesome Saturday. Had a pretty good one. Agent Zero is getting very good at Beat Saber. He's been enjoying the heck out of it. Here we go. For uniformity's sake, actually, I'm going to try running this first. Right, we're going to try this. And let's just see if it runs. I think we might get a similar issue here. Yeah, so for some reason the browser's still just crashing out every time we try to load it through MCP. Let me double check something what we're doing here. So let's throw LangGraph create React agent here. Oh, that's right. That's what we're doing here. So have our multi-step agent happening here. That's right. We pass that as a tool over to the React agent here to let it do its thing. I had to remind myself what we're doing here. So real quick, let's look at the anatomy of this real fast. So we defined a bunch of clients. We defined one client, even though we can define multiple. We defined a browser use tool in here. And then we define the command. It's running Docker. Here's all the arguments it needs to run. And it should run, hopefully, in the Docker container, MCP headless with a model using the version of Claude we just sent it, right? And then we send in a couple of our environment variables, and we tell it to use standard IO as the transport layer. Next, what we did is we defined a browser test function. This gets our tools, which is from client up here. We get a list of those tools. We pass them to a very basic React agent. That's a built-in agent in LangGraph. We get that set up, and then we invoke a message here. And then this is just the async loop to run everything. So this should be working just fine. I tell you what, for the sake of... No, I think this should work just fine. I don't get what the heck it's doing. Hey, Max, thank you for coming online. Welcome in. Guys, we are very quickly encroaching on the follower goal of 1,337 followers, which would then officially make the status of the channel elite. So I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do with that, because we're gonna hit that value pretty quick, and then I gotta figure out the fun stream to do for that. I had planned to do a special stream when this we hit elite followers. Let's see. So having this run as MCP would be really handy. The way the code's written, I'm trying to keep it isolated over in the Docker container for that very reason. But for some reason, when we run this with MCP, it's just hating life. Why is that? Hold on, did we add debug onto this? We did not. Let's throw that in too. Maybe we could get a little bit more info out of this guy. Let's try it now. Because I really want to get this dang browser done and off the plate so we can get back to working on the agent. The tooling should not be this difficult. Yeah, right there. It's just absolutely hating life. Let me try something else here. Let's try running it with root permissions. In theory, we should get a different warning from this. Yeah, that. Why? Why are you making my life so difficult? The problem is we're not getting a lot of data back, right? The browser use session is just saying, hey, we're getting an error. It realizes the process is done. It tries to start a new one. That's why you're getting these incrementing process numbers. Surely someone else has run across this. Let's see. Browser use agent Docker MCP. What's the error we're actually getting? Chrome process no longer exists. This is a different one. This is Agent Desk AI, though. It's just straight up failing. No, that's not going to work. Actually, there's a cheat to this. Because it says, what is it? It says Chrome process number no longer exists. See if we can find out what this is doing. A whole lot of anything. Let's see. Process no longer exists. Let's see if anybody's has a issue about this. Let's see. Does he have this in here? Switch to version 0.5.3. Issue no longer exists. You're killing me, Smalls. So everything worked perfectly on 0.5.0, broke at 0.5.2 and 3. Oh, the Jaws of Deep. But fortunately, this issue is not the one we're looking What a beatdown, man, because it's working so well. I like what they're doing. I really don't want to go and strip out a bunch of their code to basically create our own browser session with this. Let's kind of think through this a little bit here. So what we're currently trying to do is we have our browser. I'm just going to call it .py. What this should do is we should define an MCP client, and then that gets passed over to a React agent. And then basically it should be able to get all of our tools from that. And one of those tools should be able to call it over MCP to be able to talk to it. And so if we look at what browser use is actually doing, so browser use is using either playwright or patchwrite to actually start the browser session. So I think it's going to default to patchwrite because we have patchwrite installed. That should give us a browser session. So maybe we should go dig into this browser session a bit to see how it's actually launching the process. So it should be launching it headless from the options that we gave it. Right, see that? Look something real. Actually, I think I might just be able to do that over. Let's just go open that up real quick. It's browser use. Trust that project, open in a new window. This should hopefully detect the... Yes, this will be a lot simpler to debug. That's what I'm trying to ascertain, Bobby. I don't know. I'm pretty sure. I'm 99% sure it is like hard-coded to launch Chromium. But now we've got ourselves a new PyCharm instance. Let's see if we can dig into this just a wee bit. This will be easier than trying to view it over on GitHub. So we look at browser use, and if we go over to MCP, what's the init for this? Let's take a look here. That. We get some imports. All right, let's go get main. So that from server, it's importing main. In fact, one thing I like about this is we can go to the declaration, I think will be. There we go. Nice quick search. All right. So for our server, what are we actually using this server for? So here's our server telemetry capture. So we take this, we do a server run. So let's go to this declaration. For a second there, I thought his name was Nick Sweating. I'm like, what a unfortunate last name if your last name was Sweating. Let's see. Agent, browser session. These are all options I think we could pass to it, like if we passed in a browser session, controller, language model. So they used to use LangChain in the background. They switched it to where they've got their own implementation that's kind of compatible with LangChain, but not really, which is unfortunate. Otherwise, I would just be using browser use like directly in the operation of it. To it. Let me go to this real quick. Project API key. I feel like we shouldn't be using that. I don't care. There we go. We're just going to disable telemetry like right off the bat there. Although we'll have to go rebuild the container, but that's not such a big deal. But now we don't have to deal with telemetry for now. Let's see, here's our handle for listing all the tools. Executing a tool. Hold on, let me do something here. So here's our browser use server. So main pulls this in, which is in server. Okay. So I'm going to track this down real quick here. So we're going to call main, and then from main, we're going to create a browser use session. So that's going to call, and I'll show you what I'm writing here in just a second. So that's going to call browser use server, which is then going to call basically dot run. And then down here in run, let's go to this real quick. So here's our run. So what we do is we're going to use MCP server studio standard IO read write stream. Here's our user. We have our get capabilities. Actually, you know what we might be able to do here? Let's do something. Let me pop this down. Let's come back over here. So something we could also do is, here for our React agent, we can actually make a modification to this, where we come through and we actually add like a memory check pointer to it, and then we can get some things here. So rather than doing a invoke, I gotta remember how to do this. I literally was just doing it, but I don't remember. React agent. So this would be a LangGraph. Stream of output. Let's see if this will still work. Yeah, there we go. So rather than calling invoke, what we're going to do is we're going to call agent stream. We give it whatever our input is, which our input needs to then be kind of formatted as a human message. Not a big deal. Nice. Wait, did he say they're moving away from using Playwright? Let's see. I mean, I don't care if they're moving away from using Playwright, because Playwright's just basically a tooling middle layer, right? As long as the functionality to handle everything out there is still the same. Playwright does seem to be causing some issues here. Let's see. Run the Chrome command. It shows when spawning the sub process. See why it's failing to launch. This is due to an underlying browser never opening successfully. But when we ran this directly, right? I remember how to run Chromium headless. Yep, smells. Let's see. So we changed how we launch the browsers between those versions. We're moving away from Playwright to manage browser launching in-house. We're not going back to Playwright, so we just need to be able to see the full output from the browser launch failure to see how to fix it. I recommend staying on... Oh, so this is a very recent update. 0.50 for now until our new browser launch system is stable for a few versions. I see. Let me look at something real fast. Now that you bring that up, let me go over to browser use. So what are the changes we made to the Docker file? So we made a bunch of these changes in here. That's right. We fixed the version of Playwright for some of this other stuff. So I tell you what, let's do something. Let's back up this Docker file. We'll deuce this out. We'll go pull the 0.50 branch, and then we'll see if we can get that working. Debugging on the bleeding edge. That's where I live. I eat stress for breakfast. All right, so let's do something. Let's clear a bunch of this stuff out. I'm going to copy this Docker file to just a home directory. We're going to call this Docker file browser use fixed 0.53. So I think that's the version we're using. Let me double check that. So we're on 0.54. Yeah. Let's do this. We backed that up. Let's actually hold on. Let me clear this real quick. Close you. Close this. We're gonna RMRF this browser use folder, and then what we're gonna do is go back over to the official repo. So they just released 0.55. Let's go find the 0.50 change here. Here we go. I gotta remember how to pull out a command. Here we go. Let me copy this real quick. Let's go clone that. Oh, that's not what I wanted. I gotta remember how to do that. Git clone at commit by hash. Well, we could do a git reset. Yeah. Oh, there we go. You know what? I could have just pulled it and then just gone to the commit hash. So that's fine. Let's do that. We'll have a fresh copy now, so let's go to browser use, and then what we'll do is we will get checkout. Then what is the commit hash for this? Copy this. Let's see. I thought we had a version file in it, so we could verify that. That. Let me clean up some of these Docker containers real quick. Use. And I've got this dangling one here. So get rid of that one as well. And you know what? I don't need you anymore either. Don't need you anymore either. Let's get rid of all of these. There we go. Clean up our Docker just a wee bit. So you know what? I think I can just look at the Pi project. Let's see. There we go. So we are on the 050 commit. Awesome. So let's build this sucker. I'm not sure how to say your name. Zete? Hey, thank you for coming online. Welcome in. I hope you're having a absolutely fantastic Saturday. And also, I'm out of my green Jocko, unfortunately, which you can't see because of the green screen. But look, right here, look. It's clear. It's transparent. Not sponsored by Jocko yet. So one of the funny things I'm actually working on right now is a transcriber to go through, because I have raw copies of all the live streams, and go find the timestamp of every time I have said not sponsored by Jocko yet, and then what it will do is it should transcribe the audio until it finds that token, take the timestamp, and then make a cut of it. And so I'm gonna make a giant super cut of all those and send them to Jocko. Hey, Asher. Unfortunately, I do not speak Spanish very well. Mi esposa, she speaks muy bien. However, she has a lot more practice than I do. I dropped my fidget USB spinner. Hey, Sin, what's up, dude? Take a look at what an advanced topic to attend. I think this is a breakthrough innovation. All right, let's go look at it real quick. Kernel-enforced DNS exfiltration security. Framework built for cloud environments to stop data breaches via DNS. Ooh. Which is funny because actually we don't make a lot of use, or at least I don't, of DNS. It's okay. I mean, data exfil over DNS is just ungodly painful. It's a very small pipe that you're able to send that data through. It's really use DNS as your C2 channel when you just need to maintain like a break glass type agent, right? One that just sits there very quietly and is trying not to attract attention to itself, and then can spawn a more interactive agent when you need to actually do work on the system. Let's see. This framework is built to disrupt DNS-based C2 channels and DNS tunneling at scale by moving DNS exfiltration security directly into the Linux kernel. By using EBF-driven endpoint security enforcement, the framework runs advanced threat intelligence across the entire kernel, network stack, and mandatory access control layer, performing high-speed DPI by parsing the DNS protocol directly inside the kernel. So aided by user space deep learning model trained on a diverse DNS payload obfuscation technique, It enhances detection accurately and enables dynamic runtime enforcement. Simultaneously prevents DNS-C2 channels and tunneling, ensuring no exfiltrated packets ever leave the endpoint. Precise threat hunts and kills, or it precisely threat hunts and kills malicious C2 implants processes in real time. It inherently supports dynamic domain blacklisting, built-in kernel detection. All right. I mean, it sounds really interesting. Who is this guy? Independent security researcher graduated from the University of Washington. Focuses on Linux kernel networks. Cool. I want to know what his bona fides are, though. And the reason I say that is because I want to know, was this an academic endeavor, or did he like actually develop this for work? Because it's gonna put faith into it in different ways. Yeah, I mean that sounds like really interesting. I'm not going to Black Hat or DEF CON this year. I've had kind of my fill of Vegas for the last couple years. I'd actually wouldn't mind going. However, just haven't been. Let's see. Did our Docker container build? I think it did. Yeah, there it is. Awesome. Diplo Heisenberg, thank you for coming online. Welcome in. And I hope you are having a fantastic Saturday. All right, let's go try this now. So we should have our new little browser use agent here. We should have everything kind of set up. I'm going to try something. Actually, I'm going to try it with this setup, and we'll tinker around. We'll mess around with the options here. Actually, I'm going to take it out of root. Let's take that out. Let's try this something. Let's just see if it'll do anything. Wait, hold on. Stop this. What's this error we're getting here? Oh, interesting. So here it's saying that Playwright wasn't set up properly. So let's try this. Let's drop this out. Let's try running it as root. Because it probably has that same issue, potentially, where it was not correctly shemotting all the various issues to all the what is it? It wasn't correctly shemotting everything so that it would work. Oh, interesting. So our Playwright install stuff is missing. Let's go take a look at that real quick. Do I have diff on here? I do. Okay, diff Docker file and the Docker file we have in our home directory. All right, this is to be expected. We weren't worried about this part right here. This looks like it's just a minor change here where there's an extra line return. So we had an additional option here, which I think is the one that we added for Playwright to work. Let's see, which one was this? Oh no, so this is on the left side here. We had export Chrome binary. Oh, we did this. We copied it to home, and then we did our own export to get the Chrome export thing here. This actually looks like it might have still worked the same. The rest of everything else is pretty much identical. We may just need to go patch in this part right here. I think DNS is the go-to option on firewall for RCE and ransomware delivery. More so over C2 data breaches. Possibly. I mean, I would think, though, Sin, that a lot of times when they're delivering that, the type of systems where you're going to be running that kind of overhead on your Linux system is going to be on a server, which it's going to be a little bit more difficult to go get your ransomware to run on. I'm not familiar with many, if any, ransomware campaigns that were encrypting Linux servers. I think they, by far, target Windows-based environments. Easier. I tell you what, let's go with, no, that's not what I want to do. Let's see. Docker run. Let's see if we can get this to work in. Let's see. The Chromium is still pointing over to there. So if we try to run that without root, it's going to be having that issue. Try something else real quick. Let me grep for patch write from the Docker file. So we do still have patch write installing correctly. It's going through, it's doing its thing. Let me try for playwright here. Yeah. I hope the speaker gets severely questioned post-briefing because C2 Infra and DGA is 90% preferred option these days with adversaries. Dude, I didn't think DGAs, and if anybody doesn't know what that is, I think that's a domain generation algorithm. So essentially, the way that works is think of any pseudo number random generator where you can create a seemingly random list of strings, but they always have some kind of a seed value. And if you have the same algorithm on two different computers with the same seed, they generate the same string of random numbers. So what they do with the DGAs is they have some kind of a seed in there, and they go through and they grab a bunch of domains that match whatever gets generated by that domain generation algorithm. So that way they have a bunch of domains. You can't just fingerprint directly kind of what's happening. It's not always the same C2 domain that they're using to attack. And so it kind of makes it a little bit crazy. Now, I thought DGAs had kind of fallen out of style for a while, but now they're making a comeback. And it just goes to show that everything in security, all that's old is new again. Really need a browser. Let me run that diff again real fast. Diff this against the one. All right, so this is not a... I don't think this is a big issue. Now, the issue we were getting, though, looks like Playwright was just installed or updated. Please run the following command to download new browsers. I don't want that. I don't wanna. Oh, hold on. So this says it's Chromium 1179. That's not the one I think I saw in there, though. Look at that. It's still 1169. So the issue here is, yeah, we're going to have to go set that browser value. Fudge, I didn't save it. Dang it, what crap. What was the version of Playwright that we had to use? Yeah. I think you'd have more luck. My personal opinion, professional opinion too, you'll have more luck stopping DNS exfiltration by having good network layer logging. That's it. If you've got good telemetry on your system and you're logging stuff where you can get it down to like, hey, you can see all those DNS queries happening, you can see them on the network. Now, granted, I think he did mention in that brief that this was particularly for cloud systems. And that's a whole different can of worms trying to get network telemetry from a cloud-based system, right? However, that's where you're going to have the most luck with this is if you have network telemetry where you can actually see the packets, because DNS is not encrypted. You can use DNSSEC. That's going to be a little bit different though, and I don't know of any C2s that are using DNSSEC. However, once you've got all that stuff kind of going and flying across the network, you can see it. I think that was where you're going to have a lot better use for it. Or heck, even just some logging capabilities going on. Let's see. We're going to have to go modify that dang file again, aren't we? So... So we need to find the version of Playwright that corresponds to Chrome 1169. Let's make a couple of changes here. Actually, you know what I want to do? Let me quit out of this. Let me run this again. Let me try something here, because I think we can actually just have it open. We can have this do like a quick test, right? Playwright open a page in the that's specified from TAC B. So let's do TAC B. We'll tell it, I think it's Chromium. Actually, default is Chromium, so we're good there. And then what the URL is. Let's just do HTTP 1.1.1.1. And I think we can have even a debug option. That's what I meant by deep packet inspection, having a strong lexical analysis at the endpoint inside the kernel is the earliest source. We don't need to hunt for logs in the sim and SOAR with extra overhead. I feel like logs are too slow for a C2. Yeah, I mean, having something in the kernel kind of watching for that is interesting. Depending on also how they set up whatever machine learning model they've got, also, it can be kind of neat, but you're talking about extra server overhead in that case. So there's a lot of trade-offs to it. Don't get me wrong, it sounds very interesting, but I have a ton of unanswered questions. I wish I could go watch that briefing. Fortunately, I'm not going to be at this year. I've only gotten to attend Black Hat one time. And that's because the Black Hat tickets are stupid expensive. By the way, if you go to the exhibitors hall, don't let them scan your badge. No. You're just going to get inundated with marketing spam. Interesting. Quick find executable 1170. Let me try something here. Let's try it with patch right. So we get the same... Wait. Hold the phone. Cache, MS Playwright, Chromium 1169, Chrome Linux Chrome. Wait, that doesn't exist? Oh, you know what? I know why. Did they put this actually in browser use? Hold on. That's so weird. Do we have a cache file for root? Huh. So even though it's supposed to run that, it didn't. Y'all see that? Man, I really like what these guys have done. However, trying to get this up and configured is an absolute pain in the butt. I want to work on my hacking agent. I don't want to debug the browser. I wish I had kept a copy of the playwright YAML. I don't want a fat. I don't want to. I just want the browser to work. Ugh. It's not for some reason. That's the weird part. So I diffed out what we did in here. I'm trying to remember which version of... So from the Pi project, Tommel, right? So we diffed the Docker file and the backed up copy we had, right? So in the original copy, right, it's looking for this. Here we're getting this here. And then we have a tiny bit of difference between these two where it got changed to an at instead of a run, which is fine. This net effect is nothing. Let's see. The export Chrome binary, though, we did change because we copied everything over to home browser use, and then we put all this stuff in here. We got to go figure out what version of Playwright we were using. Cypher, eat me. I just want this to work. And unfortunately, I can't do like a 4-hour stream tonight. I have to be off at 11 because I've got stuff I got to do early in the morning. Yeah, there was. It was in the Pi project, Tommel, up here. So what we had to do is, one of the major things we had to do is we had to fix this value here. I believe we just did it for Playwright. And I don't remember which version of Playwright we did. I'm going to test it out. I'm just going to try this. And then I'm going to vim the Docker file real quick. I need to find, what line was this on? This was on line 160. So let's go over to 160. No, not like that. Not like this. I gotta adjust this right here. That's gonna change to an equals. X out of that. And then I need to do Docker images, image RM, browser use latest. Let me list the images real quick. Oh, this is where before they did the multi-step one. So in later versions of browser use, they had this actually split into like a base one that installed all the libraries and another one. So we just had to get rid of that one. So let's Docker image RM browser use. Clear that out, and then let's rebuild it. It failed. Didn't like it. What no you like? Oh, I gotta get rid of the merged layers in there, I think. Yeah, there we go. Yes. Prune the layers. There we go. Kick all those out, and let's build it again. The problem I was running into is one of the cached layers when it was building the Docker container had an error in it. That's what happens. Cypher, I just want you to know something. You're my number one. And my number two. Well, I take it back. It still didn't like that. Zora Rush, thank you for coming online. Welcome in. I hope you're having a freaking fantastic Saturday. I don't know why. Why? Why must you tempt me with destruction? Let me see here. So, we are in an older version of browser use. However, I think when it's installing, the problem is whenever it here, let me show you. So the problem here is this originally for, oh, I'm an idiot. I'm a dummy. I freaking edited the wrong line. Where is it? Is it? No, that's not it. Where was that thing? Let me come back over here. I need to go find the... There we go. 050. So what we did is we checked this out, then we basically checked out the commit hash. And if we look at the Pi project in here, here was the issue right here. Okay, so it should have been patch right 1525, but actually this is the issue right here, right? If we go do a UV list in here, right? Let's put out of this. Do I have UV installed? I do. UV list here. All right, you can find UV pip list. You are killing me, Smalls. I can't even run the Docker container. The problem is, though, it's using this indicator, right? Greater than or equal to this minor number, right? So we don't know which version of Playwright it was installing. So what we do is we need to fix the version of Playwright to a particular one in here. So, not that one. So what we need to do is, let me append this. So this should have been, yeah, 1525. And this I want to leave as the same, but then Playwright needs to change to an equals. There we go. Be quit out of here. And then, now, it should hopefully build. Because what it's going to do now is that rather than installing whatever compatible version UV finds above 1520, it's going to install exactly 1520. System prune always solved all my problems. Dude, it's... You're not joking, man. Actually, I was afraid that I had busted this server. This is the server running on my... actually, on my Ludus server, because Ludus just runs on top of Proxmox. However, this is actually like a what I call a meta server. It's not one that's managed by Ludus. It's still running on the Proxmox server, though. So it's running outside of it. I've got it as a dedicated system. I was worried I might have... Actually, no, I take it back. This system actually is. There's other ones that aren't. This one actually is running inside of a Ludus range. All right, the build process completed. So let's Docker run. Let's try this again.
Okay, cool. So now this should hopefully line up. We probably have to make some more changes though, because if we look in root, see we still don't have a cache file in here. So where the heck is it thinking that it's getting the browser from? Patch right, open. See, look at that. It still thinks it's not there. So I'm going to try something real quick. Patch right, install. So for some reason, the patch right install is jacking up and actually not installing the browser, which is weird. Host system is missing dependencies to run browsers. Kill me, Smalls. Ugh. Why do you hate me? We'll see if Playwright will behave any better. No, Playwright's doing the exact same thing. All right, well, let's try something here. Let's just see if we can debug this to get it working real quick. So. My company is sponsoring Black Hat, so we'll attend some of the briefings only this year. Quite a few young academic students speaking this year on innovations. I mean, I hope they're coming up with some cool stuff, but one of my concerns with that, though, Sin, is that what they're doing is they're speaking purely academically, and they don't understand how the actual infrastructure works. So, yes, what they're coming up with is cool, but there's always been a big challenge of taking something that's an academic finding and making it into a business operable system, right? Hey, there's so this is not one that we have built. It is, let me check something real quick. So it looks like actually we're using fine. So no, it's using the Python 3.12 Slim as the base here. The thing I don't get is so from the so everything with the left arrow, right, is from our the source Docker file. We haven't changed anything in there. Well, I'll take that back. We changed one thing, which was we changed how it's going to match the version of Playwright. Let's see. So this is not a big deal. This part right here. We did change how the Chrome binary exports because we copied it from root cache to home browser use, and then we shemotted everything, or we choned it. But see, that's the really weird part. Let me try something here. I really like this browser use agent. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's actually going to be effective and work. And the other browser use agents I've seen, they always want to use a third-party system. They want to have you go and connect into something else. I want to be able to run everything. Let me run the install again and see what it was erroring on. If it's going to be erroring on a couple things in here.
And if we have not got this fixed tonight, I might just take a break from it and try to either find an alternative or think about what we're going to do with it. And maybe tomorrow we'll go do Hack the Box, or we'll do Try Hack Me, something else to take a break from it. Because it is driving me up the freaking wall. That's what I'm thinking, Bobby. And this is really weird. Like, hey, why are all of a sudden these things missing out of here? Hang on. I got to drop over into OPSEC mode real quick. I got to open something and make sure I don't have anything. Okay, cool. We're good here. Clear some of this stuff out. What is going on here? Get rid of all this stuff. Kind of clean this up a bit. All right, I got to figure out how to get these installed. I don't know if we just need to target this. Maybe I need to install.
Caution. A virus has been detected.
Griffin virus detected in the network.
Griffin virus. What's up, Griffin? How you doing, man? Welcome in, Raiders. Hold on. Let me. I gotta set the. Must send Cookie Monster to stop the virus. What's going on, man? Just chilling, dude. I'm about to be just chilling. Stack Overchill, thank you for coming online. Welcome in, Raiders. For everyone who doesn't know, my name is Blaise. I'm a professional pen tester and offensive security guy, and I do coding for fun to kind of stretch myself and become a better code writer instead of just a code breaker and tinkerer. And currently, we're not even doing any freaking code. We're trying to fix a browser for our code to use. So we're building a hacking AI agent that's supposed to go play capture the flag games. Basically, think of it as Sudoku for hackers. Supposed to go in, you hack the Gibson, you get the flag, you get the dopamine rush. That's the gist of them. However, our AI agent really wants a browser. We're trying to do stuff like with curl and like Python requests, and it's just not having it. It always wants to say like, go to this page, click here, upload, yada yada. We're trying to give it a browser, and the browser is just being an absolute crap fest. One Shield, thank you for coming online. There's a rabbit administration system. Send a flu shot. Gotta send the flu shot. I need to go make my wife watch that. My wife has not seen Hackers. And so I think sometime when we do a movie night, I'm going to make her watch that. And she's probably going to just be reading on her phone the whole time. But I'm going to be like, hey, watch this. It's a funny part. And she's going to be like, hey, why is that funny? I'm going to be like, well, because of this. And it's going to be some technical explanation. And you know what she's going to say? That's nice, dear. That's exactly what she's going to say. Shy Plays, what's up, man? Welcome in. From Brazil. Awesome, man. Dude, no worries. I'm sure your English is far superior to my Portuguese. So, no problem, man. And Bedtime Bear. Thank you for coming online. And now I know who I'm snuggling with tonight. It just sounds comfy. Browser-based is an AI-enabled browser. So what we're trying to use, the system is, and we're just running into what is the usual for Python, which is dependency hell in some ways. Actually, it's mostly with Playwright. This is a very cool tool here called Browser Use. And check out the demo for this. It's pretty sick. We're trying to use it as an MCP server. But look at this thing. This is awesome. So it actually goes through and it will recognize what it's doing. It runs very well standalone. It runs okay if you want to import it and use it as a Python library. However, trying to get it to work as an MCP server is being an absolute beatdown. So trying to figure out how we could potentially make this work. Unfortunately, it's pretty like, I don't know, let's call it early software. It's bleeding edge a little bit. Let me look at browser base. One of the issues I've got though, Griffin, is I'm trying to find something we can run locally, preferably in a Docker container, because everything should be kind of contained in-house. Also, if it cannot run locally on our system, we can't VPN it into the CTF range. So it's a browser meant for being an attack system, right? Oh, Shower Place, dude, there's a ton of them. There's not usually a lot on at night, but let me tell you about this site, infosecstreams.com, which is funny because it doesn't even show us online. But here, I'll drop the chat. I'll drop it over in chat for everybody. There's people on all times a day doing all sorts of different security stuff, and they're just having a great time with it. So definitely check this out. During the day, it's a lot more populated. Usually this time at night, the server's not perfect. Sometimes it doesn't catch the catch the webhook, but it should show us on here. And so there's lots of folks on, especially around, I'd say from 1 to 5 p.m. Central Eastern time-ish, about there. There's usually like multiple folks on here doing stuff during the day. So very cool site to take a look at it, especially if you like seeing people do security content. All sorts of kinds too. Yeah, and so I'm trying to get browser use to work, Griffin. It's being a beatdown trying to get it to work in the Docker container. It may even work better in the future because they're trying to move away from Playwright, and Playwright was a big source of all the issues. Let's see. Solutions. Can you run this like locally though? And see, there's a whole bunch here. They even have articles on, hey, here's how you can give your a browser agent to LangGraph to run this. But it's using some other hosted browser. It's like, I don't want a dang hosted browser, man. I think they're moving it to, I think that basically they're duplicating the functionality of Playwright into themselves. And they did the same thing with LangChain. They originally were using LangChain on the back end to handle the language model interactions. And then they stripped out LangChain. They moved to their own internal code base for that. I don't blame them for that. I wish they had kept LangChain because we would have gotten some extra visibility since HackBot is built on LangGraph. And so we could actually go through, we could see that as part of the traces as it was doing stuff. Unfortunately, that's not the case anymore. The other option I have considered is trying to roll my own and basically reverse engineering how they're doing it with browser use. And I say reverse engineering in the most, crazy way possible. Really just reading the code and seeing what they're doing, what the execution steps are, and then go through and duplicate that ourselves. And it would actually technically, I don't think, be that difficult. We'd go through and we'd basically look at what they're doing on the MCP side and then go build in those capabilities. But I've never used Playwright or Patchwright, which I would probably just maybe do away with Patchwright or Playwright and just use Patchwright directly. Let's see. Let's do a search here. Let's see. MCP browser agent you can run in Docker. Let's hyperbrowser. Oh, no, don't let me keep you, Griffin. I understand, man. When it's raid out time, it's raid out time. We got about 40 minutes left on the stream. Unfortunately, I usually will stream until 11 p.m. Central Time. And unfortunately, that's a hard stop tonight. I've got some stuff I got to take care of very early in the morning. Sometimes go a little bit later. By the way, let me know if that alert is too loud. I feel like it is, and I'd probably need to turn it down. But let me know. All right, let's see here. This one might be interesting. Where's the GitHub repo for it? Repository. Let me check this out. Hyperbrowser. I've never seen this before. Browser info for AI agents. So this is Hyperbrowser's MCP server. Provides various tools to scrape, extract, structure, and crawl data. All right. First thing I need to know. Are you using PatchWrite? Not using PatchWrite. Are you using Playwright? I think I spelled that wrong. Right? Not using Playwright. Hold on. No, not using any of those. I wonder what they're using to... Maybe they've got their own definition for it also. It's fairly up to date too. I mean, it's 2 months old. No releases, however. So here's an example of how to run it on curses. Looks like it is using... If I had to guess, this is probably using... Yeah, because they're issuing a command here. This is probably using a standard IO MCP. So tools, we have scrape, crawl, extract data, search with Bing. Really, Bing? Actually, Bing hasn't been too bad for me. I started using it by accident, and it was working so well, I just never stopped using it. Let's look at their Docker file here. Let's see what they're doing. So they're installing this from Alpine. This is a really, really tiny Docker file. A lot less complex than I was expecting. So why do I need a hyperbrowser API key? Yeah, it looks like browser, it looks like this is exactly what I didn't want. Yeah. This is another one where they're like, hey, we're going to host the browser for you and let you run it. I was like, thanks, no thanks. But this one, MCP browser agent. Let's see. Now the question is, are we using this? Do we do a Playwright install? This one actually may work if we could find out how to get the actually working inside of the container. Hey, Russ, thanks for stopping by, man. I understand it's starting to get late for a lot of folks, especially if you're over there on the East Coast. It's funny because the company I work at now, 99% of the company's all remote. And so there's two channels in there that are funny. There's the East Coast, Beast Coast, and West Coast, Best Coast channels. And it's really funny just as that those exist. Let's see. So we also have API tools in here. So how is this actually functioning? Let's dig into this one. Maybe this would actually be worthwhile. Let's look at the Docker file here. So node LTS as the builder. And then from node LTS, we do app. Does it set up the browser for us? Playwright install Chromium with dependencies. Heck, this one may actually work. It looks fairly simplistic. It's running Node. I'm not going to hold that against them if it actually works. Studying cybersecurity in university? Nice. Dude, yeah, feel free to hop in and ask questions. I am always open to answer questions. Anybody who's been a long-time viewer on the stream knows that I have zero problems making just a hard detour into questions to help folks. I had lots of cool folks in my past help me do that, and it's just kind of my way of having fun. Plus, actually, sometimes by trying to solve what would be, let's call them simple problems for me, I learn new things. I learn new things all the time by helping folks out. So I'm all about that. I really want to try this. Let's go clone this down. Let's see. Do they have any releases? Let's see. Latest release here. Very cool. What is this called? MCP browser agent? Well, let's go give it a shot. Copy the commit ID here. Well, actually, I'll need the commit ID in just a second. Let's go clone this out real fast and go take a look at it. All right, exit. Browser use, you're dead to me. You're breaking my heart. Then let's do Docker image RM browser. Yep, let's get rid of you. And then I'm gonna prune all the build stages. Also, clean up our Docker a wee bit. There we go. And then let's go ahead and clone out this MCP agent. And then what we'll do is we'll check out our commit. Let me go get the commit ID fast. There we go. And if we look in the package.json, should tell us what the version is. Okay, 080, so that's the latest committed version. Cool. This way we're not getting the random stuff that's in the main branch. Worked for a few years in Germany with the 4 to 5 hour gap. Yeah, I've got some of my folks that do work over across the Atlantic, and yeah, I try to be as helpful as I can with their time schedules whenever I'm working with them on projects, because I understand it's a pain. Is it safe to expose an entire Proxmox server to the public by using Tailscale or any other service? Now, if you're using Tailscale, you're not exposing it to the public, right? You're exposing it to your local tailnet. And in fact, I've got buddies that sometimes when we need to working on research projects, that's what we'll do is we'll just add each other to our tailnet, and that way I can reach his stuff, and it's basically encrypted by WireGuard. It's not a bad thing like that. Now, putting it out to the public, no. Putting it on Tailscale, that's not a bad deal. This Proxmox server that's sitting right next to me, it's on Tailscale. I can connect to it from anywhere in the world and be able to access my lab environment. I've been thinking about what careers I'd like to even break into the field, and I think SOC analyst doing incident response and forensics would be one of the most intriguing things for me. It is a really interesting field, and there's always a need for talented SOC and forensics folks. One thing is, it's a bit like being a detective, right? You basically, something can happen, your pager can go off. Metaphorically, right? Nobody really has pagers these days, but essentially you're kind of on call for when emergencies happen, because when you're doing forensics and incident response, they're time critical endeavors, right? So you might get called in for that and have to go work kind of odd hours, but it also is a very crucial job. And the people that like it, they really like it. Sometimes, they're
They're the kind of folks that are like, yes, I eat stress for breakfast. I don't think it has to be that way. I think they just made it that way for themselves because they're a little bit of like cortisol addicts, but that's kind of how it is. I think especially with a lot of the AI agents coming up and some of the automation in security operations centers that's happening, being able to look at things critically that AI models might miss is going to be one of the big things. And plus, I think where that's going to go in the future is you're going to have that enhancing the SOC capabilities, but not replacing it. Because let's say somebody sells a solution and they say, you know, hey, we catch, you know, all the bad guys, whatever, 100%, and then they don't. Well, who does the onus fall on? Falls on, they potentially have exposed themselves to some legal liabilities, even if the terms of service say, hey, nothing is 100%, yada, yada, yada. It's a little bit different, though, when it's your employee that you have trained and you know that, hey, sometimes they do make mistakes. The difference is the amount of perfection that you're expecting and demanding of the workers that are doing those security operations. Not your average developer. I love the usernames. They crack me up. What is someone that's been a mobile engineer for 5 years, mainly Swift, but have worked on many languages and want to get into cybersecurity? Dude, there's a lot of work to be done for mobile application security audits and penetration testing. I mean, penetration testing is usually used as a very broad term, which just basically means you're doing an offensive tear down or reverse engineering of an application, especially for mobile and people who are good with Swift. If you've been a mobile developer, you understand the trouble sometimes of like, hey, I'm trying to make sure that certain phones, especially if you've been doing Swift, you understand iOS probably pretty well. And having to try to keep certain phones on certain versions of iOS and some of the headaches that are going to happen there, that's a big like barrier to entry for folks that want to get into doing that, is understanding how to properly manage your zoo, right? Your testing zoo in there. So I would say just start looking at what are some of the offensive abilities of like doing those kind of code reviews, because you understand how to build the applications. That's great. That gives you just an immense foundation, especially if you've been doing it for 5 years. Then all you have to do is just say, okay, well, this is the way it should have been done properly. What happens whenever that doesn't get done properly? What are the security implications to it? Understanding how something functions and then throwing security onto it is a lot simpler than just going straight security side, believe it or not. Because then you got to figure out what's the functionality, how's it supposed to be used, what are other ways you could use it. You've already got one of those kind of really knocked out there with your background. If nobody had pagers, Israel's attack wouldn't have worked. Damn it, Ken. Nobody in the US hardly uses pagers anymore. Which is funny because there's an entire alerting system called PagerDuty. That should tell you how old it is, but it's for alerting IT folks that something has happened in the environment. Systems are down, networks are down, whatever. Dude, I was on a penetration test one time. I got access to their entire Windows domain. I had full domain admin permissions, and I created a backdoor account and added it to domain admins. And I had tested these guys before, and they didn't catch me when I did this. So I did the same thing. They had increased their response and detection so well. As soon as I added myself to domain admins, it set off a huge alert in PagerDuty, kicked off an incident response. They actually were able to track it down to the exact closet I was working out of. And I didn't know this. I got domain admin, and I'm like, okay, that's a good day. I packed up and went home. Grabbed my laptop. I left some of my other testing gear there, and one of it was a little network switch. Just a switch. Nothing special to it. And went home. I come back the next morning. I'm like, dude, where's my network switch? And so I called the guy who's managing the system, and he comes over, and another guy comes over, and he's holding my switch. He's like, is this yours? I was like, yeah. He's like, what is this? What kind of computer you got in here? What is it running? I was like, that's a network switch. And then he explains to me about it set off a huge alert in PagerDuty. They went through and they actually had increased their security response so well, they were able to track it down to the physical switch port in that closet. They go in there expecting to find somebody. They just find my little switch. So out of caution, they take it, they yank it from the system. And I was like, damn, you guys really improved your response from the last time I tested y'all. It had been about a 2-year gap. Yeah, I was thoroughly impressed that they had got that. But apparently, getting DA and then going home, maybe you want to let the the point of contact know that. Any good resources you know of that revolve around where I'm talking about? Oh, let me think. I don't know any offhand. Hang on. I'll text a buddy real quick and ask him. Because chances are he will reply to me real quick. Let's see. Yeah, I'll just message him real quick. He'll tell me in just a minute. Let me see. All right. Oh wait, we were just looking to see where we were with this. All right, let's do a Docker build on this. So Docker build, we'll call this MCP browser agent. Let's just build this sucker real fast. And hopefully, actually, this will be a lot simpler because I think this is going to provide an MCP as a tool. Whereas browser use, it was meant to make its own language calls, which I didn't really necessarily need or want. But you know what? It'll work. I'm surprised he hasn't replied back. He's usually glued to his phone. Let's let this build. Actually, let me look at something real quick, because there's another tool in here. What is that called? I gotta remember the name of the tool. Virtual iPhone. Let me see. It's not really a kind of is virtual iPhone for security testing. Corellium. I think Corellium may actually have training courses. Let me see. They used to, actually. Not that I remember the name. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. Here, I'll drop this over for you. There we go. So Corellium does have some training. Now they're going to be talking about how to do the testing with their platform. But there's lots of other ones you can look at. Kidslayer, thank you for coming online. Welcome in. Hope you have a happy Saturday today. Yeah, all the techniques will be identical. It's just the approach is going to be a little bit different. Are you using a physical iOS device versus the Corellium one? I really like Corellium. Unfortunately, they got really expensive, especially after they finally won their lawsuit against Apple. Apple tried to sue them to get them shut down because what they had done is they had found a way to effectively virtualize all the hardware of an iPhone and get you a virtual iPhone that you could test against. Very cool solution, but Apple was like, no, you can't do that. They got sued. Corellium ended up winning, but it doesn't really matter because they still are out all those legal costs, and who knows how much that is. So, and they're kind of the only name in town that does what they do, so they charge a pretty good premium for it. Hey, Austin, what's up, man? Okay. Our Docker container is ready. Actually, let me look at something real quick in that Docker file. What's our entry point? Okay, so it's only going to run the index.js. We should be good there. If this works, after all the work I did on browser use, I'm going to write them a sternly worded letter. Let's see. Bring this down. Let's go clear all this up. So, actually, let me look at one more thing with that. Make sure I'm not assuming too much here. I closed it. Dang it. Let me come back over here. Used to run Windows and I switched over to Mac. Dude, actually, I really like having a Mac for some stuff. On my personal computer, I'm still running Windows because trying to stream from a Linux system, it's a pain. It's a massive pain. And thank you for coming on the line, Austin. Yeah, I actually, when I'm doing a lot of my professional work, and even offensive security, I really like having a Mac to do it. It run, especially the M processors, they run so well. They're just crazy expensive. I'm not going to go buy one for myself. Let me see. See something here real quick. Let's see. So for MCP clients like Cloud Desktop, add this configuration. Yeah, it looks like this is using, since it's running like a UVX, it's running, what is this? No, this is not the one I was looking at. Hold on. Hold on. Lose my mind here. Yeah, this is not the same one. I think it's this. There we go. This is the one. I use Arch on a MacBook for 2018 hardware. It's funny you mentioned that, Guccifer, because actually I have an old 2012 MacBook that still runs great. That is the one good thing about MacBooks is their hardware actually, as non-serviceable it is, they actually last a very long time. So I really do like them for that aspect. And so I still have a 2012 MacBook that's running like a Core i5, and I actually have it running Kali right now because I just needed some Linux to do some testing on. But actually, I should put Arch on it. That'd be fun to do. Run the MCP server. Yeah, this one should be running standard IO since it's running Node. So I think everything we've got in here actually would be good. We just need to make a few modifications. We won't need to send in these environment variables. We can take those out. We don't need to run as root. Oh, geez, what happened there? Oh, let's see. We do not need to run as root. Take that out. And then we need to change this to, what's this called? MCP browser agent. Which is funny because it's not really an agent, but I'm not going to split hairs if it works. And then for the options, what options do we need to run? TacTac browser Chrome. Okay, simple enough. Let's check that real quick. So browser, we'll do Chrome, and then we can hopefully just delete these guys out. All right, let's run it. I'm curious to see what this will do. It's gonna fall flat on its face. Is what it's gonna do. That option in TacTac browser? What? What? You just said to run it with browser. Kinslayer, yes, this is the music from Heartbound. I've got some other stuff mixed in there with it, but I got so tired of fighting about music on the stream. Finally, I just decided, you know what? It's a fairly decent playlist, and the good thing about it is because it was written for a video game. It's meant to enhance what's happening and not overpower it. So, like a lot of songs that I really like, they're not that great on stream because they're not meant to be background music. They're meant to be overpowering. Video game music is meant to be more like salt. It's not a primary flavor, it's a flavor enhancer. So that's why, like, a lot of times when I'm working during the day, I'm listening to video game music. It's meant to be a background enhancer. I did like the M1s, Austin. They were good. I think actually the one I had for work was a M3. I forget. I'm still Hackintoshing, but I intend to continue that for at least 2 years. What are you running that on, Ken? Oh, you know what I forgot to do? Change this to, you know, I'm gonna leave that as browser use for now. That's fine. That should be just fine right there. Yes, all of this I think should be good. Environment variable, let me take these out. We don't need... Dude, quit scrolling weird. Kill all this stuff. Transport should be standard IO here. So command docker run interactive, make it ephemeral, browser agent latest, then tac browser Chrome. That's really weird on why it is showing. Let's see. That's it. Let's do something real quick. Let's just get into this guy real quick. Can't type. There we go. Let me have the package JSON fast. What did he say to run for this? Let me see. MCP browser agent dist index.js and then TacTac browser Chrome. Yeah. And we're just running it with Node. Let's see. I was running bare metal, but now it's on Proxmox and I'm watching you on it. That's pretty killer. Proxmox actually does a really good job, and the whole reason I came across it was because of this, where you can, what is it? Essentially what you can do is you can have Proxmox pass through graphics cards very easily. And so I needed to be able to do that, and that's what actually turned me on to Proxmox. I love it. I think it's a fantastic hypervisor. Make sure I don't have a typo in this real quick. Let's see. So browser use agent, and then we should run TacTac browser Chrome.
Let me just try that real fast. Let's do this. And then let's do browser, Chrome. Yeah, so it's running Node disk.js. Okay. Oh, dang it. I have the entry point still set. No wonder why it's all jacked up. Let's see if this will work. Browser, Chrome. Ah, here's why. See that? It's passing what we're sending to Node instead of disk.js. See that? It's saying Node is saying that's a bad option. See. Let me try something real quick here. Not sure if this will actually work. Let's see if we can force it to that. Let's see. Let's do Docker. Let me kill the old image. I can't type. There we go. Don't. No. Okay. Screw it. I'll just build it. Let's see. Docker build. Give it a tag. MCP. Browser. Agent. There we go. Passing through my Intel integrated GPU to macOS on Proxmox actually took a lot of work, but I finally got it done, and now my PCI slots are free to do some local LLM experiments. Nice, dude. Wait, hold on. So you passed the Intel, the integrated Intel or GPU, like you're talking about the on-chip one, right? Dang it. Oh, wait, I shouldn't need that. Hold on. Didn't like that. That's all right. Easy peasy though. What we do is let's just split this up a wee bit. Just like that. And that should hopefully I know 2 Linux commands. Sudo apt update and upgrade. Dude, that's all where it starts, man. And if I'm doing anything on here and like you're wondering, hey, why did that command work and what it do? Feel free to ask, man. I take the QA part seriously in the stream title. All right, I think that might have done it right there. Oh, please work. Please work. So we can take this out now because we modified the Docker file to run this. Oh my gosh, I hope this works. Wish I could see what was going on inside the container. Actually, we can. Hang on. If we have any output, we can do is
think it's Docker logs. I gotta know what the container is, Docker. You're supposed to be running something. Docker logs, and then this is from. Wish it would tab quickly. Oh. Oh no. Oh my. I have a sneaking suspicion. I think. Let me kill this real quick. Let me go check something fast here. We do. Yep, that was what I was afraid of. It's running, however, which is a freaking huge achievement, especially with 3 minutes left on the stream. However, we're going to have to change how it works. We need that browser to stay on. That's what we need. So we're going to have to re-architect it a little bit so the container stays up. It will be like a solid container, and then we can continually send commands to it. Because let's look right here. What do? We have all these tools that got sent, right? Input, browse to weather.com. I'll help you. What it does is it does a browser navigate tool call. Hold on, you can't see it because my big old head's in the way. It does a browser navigate tool call, gives it the URL, waits until it loads. It's actually doing stuff. I need a sound effects board because I need to play the little I need to play the Final Fantasy VII sound. It's working, chat. It's working. It's working. Bad news is we are almost out of time. Normally, I would hate to quit at this point, Austin, and I would keep going. However, dude, Austin, I've been fighting with this for 2 weeks because I only work on this project on stream. I do it usually on Saturdays and Sunday nights. If there had been a continued issue with the browser agent, we weren't making any traction after tonight, I was going to pivot to maybe doing like a CTF tomorrow night. But now it's actually doing it. The problem is, here's what's happening. Hang on. Let me run through this with y'all real quick in case you're not fully tracking it. It's okay because I understand Docker is not everyone's forte. So what's happening here is we've created what's called a React agent. And that's a reasoning and action agent. And it basically has 3 nodes here. One is to take input. And then one is to make tool calls. And then the other one is to basically do the React part, the reasoning and action here. So it essentially runs in a loop like this. And then there's another one here where it can go to an end condition here, where if it decides it has completed all the tasks, then it can go to an end condition. From these tools over here, we've got all the browser functions, right? Well, what happens? Those browser functions get spun up inside of a Docker container. That Docker container, however, has a tag rm option to it. So what happens is Docker spins up. When that tool gets called, Docker spins up. It executes the one tool call in here, and then it kills that container. And usually that would work out really well, except we need to maintain the state of this as it goes through. So we have 2 options. Either we figure out where it's kind of keeping everything, and then we mount that to the host, and we let that do its thing. Or what we need to do is we need to actually have Docker, we need to put a little bit of a control plane in here where it spins up a container, and we leave that running. And instead of doing a Docker run down here, what we'll do instead is we will actually redirect it to doing something like a Docker exec. I think that may work that way, where we can go through and we can exec over into it and then get it to run. as it's doing this back and forth. I think that one may work. Either that, but I'm pretty sure this TacTac RM is what's killing it, is that we're losing any state information that the browser is saving when that happens. So it's like a box, but the stuff is not showing up. You have to find another way to get the box open. Kind of. I mean, the reason why the stuff isn't showing up is because the particular function that we used in here, which is an invoke, it doesn't stream the information. It's only going to return the entire chunk of information after the agent finishes execution. So what we need to do is we can either modify this to where we can actually see the chunks come back and they will update dynamically down here. And we'll actually see it like a chat conversation in the text down here in the terminal window. And this is why I came over here so I could see it. Look, we're seeing all this stuff happen here. But notice how we're always constantly trying to like run this stuff again. We're getting exceptions whenever we call this stuff every time. But we have a path forward now. We do. We have to re-architect this a little bit. Probably what we'll do is we'll spin up a container. We'll have to test this, where this container kind of stays online. We can Docker exec into it instead of doing a Docker run. And then when we Docker exec over into it, we run the command, we let it do its thing. I think that will work. Oh, I'm so excited. All right, let's find somebody to go raid over to. Unfortunately, like I said, we're usually the only ones up this late on InfoSec streams. I'm surprised actually I beat Griffin out of the gate, because usually he streams later than I do. Kind of like a palette that you have to test for things that needs to be put on it. Yeah, pretty much. And you can think about it like that. So we have a palette where we need to continually add things onto it, right? The problem is after everything we add onto it, the palette is deleting and going away. Like imagine it being dumped in a compactor. So instead what we need to do is we need to wait till the palette is actually done and the job is finished, and then we can go dump it in the compactor, right? Then we can get rid of it. We don't need to keep it at that point. Yes. In your face, everybody who told me Docker's too complicated. In your face. All right. If you have any raid suggestions over on the Twitch side, guys, shout them out. And I will absolutely take those suggestions. Let's go see who we've got here. We got on. State is on doing his fun electronic stuff like usual. Braithwaite's also on. What's he doing? He's doing some fun testing. May go right over to Braithwaite. He's pretty fun guy. You see who else is doing fun coding stuff today. Oh, you know what? There's a lady over. Let me see what she's doing. She's doing game development, but for the game jam. There's a guy playing Fall Guys with his corgi. I eventually I will get the dog cam set back up. I didn't have it set up after my dog died last summer. She died about a year ago. I finally did get another dog in December, and she is a sweetheart. Her name's Peaches, and she's an absolute lover, not a fighter, complete indoor princess. And I just haven't set the doggy cam up again. Eventually I will, so y'all can see her. She's really sweet. See here. I haven't read it out to this guy. He looks like he's doing something good. I like what he's doing. Yeah. We'll go right over to him. All right, folks. Unfortunately, I got to do a hard stop right now. That's the end of it. But thank you all for coming in. We have finally got what looks like we're very close to having a browser for this guy. And then we can get back to actually doing the hacking bot. And I can get out of the tooling hell. I can't wait. We're good. I can't wait. I hope it's going to be good. I think I know the path forward now. We'll find out tomorrow night. Thank you all for coming in. I hope everybody has an absolute wonderful Sunday tomorrow. And we'll get back over into this. Hopefully doing some more hacking. Oh, can't wait. I'm excited. All right, guys. I can't stay late. I really want to. But I want y'all to remember one thing. Well, two things. First, Noctum Sempra, thank you for coming online. I love you guys. Take it. I spoiled it. That was the end of part. That's the other part I want y'all to remember, is that we'll be back tomorrow night, and that I love you. Peace.